Confused, frustrated, and irritated. That is exactly how I felt when I started learning how to draw anatomy and how to draw bodies. And I'm sure that's how a lot of people feel. But don't worry guys, there is still hope and you can still do this, just don't give up. Because today I'm going to be sharing with you guys everything I know about drawing bodies and anatomy. And yes, this is a updated tutorial from last year's tutorial, which reached 1 million views. Thank you so much for that. Anyways, here are how my drawings look, and now let's get into the video. By the way, if you're new, hi there, my name is Sparkle, and on my channel I make drawings and sometimes drawing tutorials. And today we have another tutorial. So this sketchbook has pretty much become my tutorial sketchbook. So we're gonna start off in this sketchbook. I said sketchbook a lot of times in that sentence. And this time I'm going to be sketching with pen. I'm going to be using my friction pens as well as a black gel pen, because last time I found out that some people had trouble seeing the pencil lines in the drawing. So that's why today I'm going to make it a bit more clear by using a blue and pink pen. And also, just to make things a bit more clear, we're going to start off kind of slow. So starting off, the very first thing is I'm going to draw a circle and 2 lines, one vertical, one horizontal. This is just how I draw faces. We all have different processes when it comes to drawing faces, but this is not the main part. The main part is the body, which comes after the face for me. By the way, if you're interested, here are some other tutorials I have up on my channel if you want to check them. Anyways, here's how I draw the head, but again, that's up to you and how your art style works. The next thing I do is I go ahead and draw the neck. Obviously 2 lines for the neck. Then I go ahead and draw 2 more lines extending from the neck. This is going to mark out the start of our shoulders actually. Then I connect them together to form a triangular kind of shape. The next step is to go ahead and draw this box. This is going to kind of represent the top part of the body, aka the chest. Then I go ahead and I draw 2 lines coming out from that, kind of going in opposite directions in a way. And then I go ahead and join them together with these 2 mini arches. And if I draw a line in the center, you can kind of see how the body is divided into 2 symmetrical parts. Anyways, now we've got the main part of the body done. So the next thing I do is I go ahead and draw 2 circles. Now this is going to be where the legs start. And recently I've developed this kind of method to determine the length of the legs. So I pretty much take the length of the top half of the body and the head and just add a little bit extra space to it. And that is pretty much how I go ahead and draw the legs. Now obviously there are different body types and there are different heights, so different drawings will still make sense even if they don't follow the same kind of idea. But this is just how I like to go about it, and once you do that, it's pretty much really easy because all you have to do is just kind of connect the dots. And how I pretty much do it is I place a dot at the center to represent the knee, and then I place a dot at the bottom to represent where the feet are starting. And as you can see, when I'm outlining the legs, it's not just going in one straight shot, but it's kind of creating these bouncy motions to replicate the look of a real leg. And obviously our legs are a bit kind of, I guess, curvy, you could describe it as being. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Also, the next thing we're going to be doing is pretty much using the same kind of process with the dots to go ahead and draw the shoulders, elbows, and arms. By the way, remember that this is just a base sketch, so if you feel like anything looks a bit off, feel free to erase it and fix it, or if you're drawing with a pen, I don't know, like use whiteout or something. But obviously, this is your sketch and there's nothing wrong with erasing. So now I'm gonna go ahead and draw a circle for the start of the shoulders, then one for the elbow, and one for where the hands are going to start. Now this is basically how I do it. I take the center of the hip kind of area, like just below the ribs, and that's where I place the elbow. And then the hands are kind of just sort of below the hips, but just a bit lower. So pretty much in between the hip area and in between the knee area. Then again, I just went ahead and connected the dots and we pretty much have that there. Also, this is not going to be a hand drawing tutorial, but if you guys do want a tutorial on drawing hands, let me know in the comments and I will see if I can make one about that too. And remember, it's always a good idea to just take a step back and look at your drawing so you can see if there are any kind of mistakes, so you can just try and fix them or try and work around them. So I kind of looked at this and I realized that the arm was a bit too low here, so I tried to bring the hand a little higher up and then it looked slightly better. And with that fixed, we're pretty much done. This is kind of just how I go ahead and draw the basic female anatomy. Obviously my process is different to a lot of other people's processes, but I hope this video might help you out if you kind of needed help with something like this. But okay, you know what, that kind of makes it sound like we're at the end of the video, when honestly this video is just getting started, because after this I'm going to be showing you guys how I draw basic male anatomy, which is something I'm still practicing, but I'm still going to share my process. So like before, I went ahead and started with a circle, one vertical line, one horizontal line. I sketched out the face by drawing the jaw, the chin, the ears, and the top of the head. Once I did that, starting it off with the neck yet again. This time the neck is just a bit more thicker, two lines extending outwards, forming a triangular shape. Then we are going to go ahead and draw the mini box shape. But this time I'm going to go ahead and add just another extra layer of that box, as you can see here, just because the body does need to look just a tad bit different. And yeah, here is just me trying to show you guys what I mean. Anyways, once that's done, we're going to go ahead and draw two more lines extending from that area to kind of mark out where the hip is. This time it's going to be just a little less wide. And now to measure out where to place the feet, I'm using the same kind of technique as I used before, as you can see here, measuring the top half of the body and the head, adding a bit of extra length to that, and then drawing the feet at that place. But I did kind of end up changing the position of the feet afterwards. But don't worry, this is your drawing, and like I said before, you always can go back and kind of make things longer, shorter, or whatever you want. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and draw 3 dots for each leg, one where the foot starts, one for the knee, and one for the very top near the hip. And then we're going to go ahead and join them. Like I said before, make sure to use like a curvy drawing motion when you're drawing the legs, because obviously the legs aren't just straight sticks, they do have bends and curves and bumps and everything, so make sure you try and capture all that. And at this point I felt like the feet were just way too high up, so I did go ahead and erase both the hip to kind of fix that, as well as the feet to kind of extend it downwards. I'm gonna be honest, filming voiceovers for tutorial videos is the most boring thing ever. But I would be so happy if this video helps someone out, so I'm just gonna keep going and hoping that this video helps at least one person out. So if it does help you out, let me know in the comments. Anyways, now for the arms, I'm gonna go ahead and draw 3 circles, one for the shoulders, one for the elbows, and one for the hands. And then same as before, I'm just gonna go ahead and connect them, keeping in mind that the body does have some bumps here and there, and it's not just gonna be completely straight. And as you can tell, I did decide to bring the arms just a little bit higher because I felt like they were just a bit too low. But hey, yeah, now it looks much better. And at this point, I think I decided that the legs needed to become a little bit longer, so I just went ahead and did that. I did mention it before, but I realized it more towards the end of this drawing. But that's the good thing about like sketching, like you can fix your mistakes at any point because it's not going to be like a finalized illustration until you really decide you're finished. Anyways, now I'm going to go ahead and just outline it so you guys can see what the main features are and separate them from the guidelines and all that. And here's how it turned out. Here is the basic female pose, and here is a basic male pose of just them standing. Anyways, now time for the next pose, and this is going to be a dynamic pose, specifically a running pose. Now I'm going to go ahead and try and implement the same kind of idea here. The very first thing, obviously, like I did before, circle, vertical line, horizontal line, sketching out the shape of the face, and this time just to help me see what I was doing, I went ahead and drew the nose as well, just so I could get a sense of direction as to where the character is facing and the direction I want their body to be moving in. Afterwards, I went ahead and sketched out the start of the shoulders like we did before, but I would like to say one thing for me when it comes to sketching out dynamic poses is I do jump between features. I don't follow a set structure because jumping between things kind of just helps me to stay focused and concentrate and not want to give up. So I might do some of that here, but I'll try to explain it as best as I can. So obviously here I went ahead and sketched out a line to help me again get a sense of which way the character is going to be moving. Some people like to call this the line of motion. It does really help when you're drawing dynamic poses. So for the chest, I went ahead and drew the box like I did before, but as you can tell this time, I'm not going to sketch out the hip because in the reference I was looking at, the hip is kind of covered by the legs. So I'm going to jump straight in and start drawing the legs. I did use a circle to help me determine where to place the knee, and then from there I kind of guessed my way to where the foot would be, keeping in mind that this is just a sketch and that I am allowed to erase and fix my mistakes if I feel like anything is just a bit off. And again, for the foot, I went ahead and used a triangular shape just so I could kind of get an idea of where it was going to be. Once I was happy with that, I went ahead and sketched out the other leg. So I went ahead and used a circle to mark out where I would place the knee and where I would place the foot. It really does help because it just gives you a rough idea of where you're going to be placing them, and obviously it's much easier to just erase and move the circles up and down rather than having an entire drawing sketched out and then erasing the entire leg just to fix its position. Well, unless it's digital art. Anyways, here is how the legs are looking right now. I went ahead and did a quick check to see if the length is okay, and for me it felt like it was looking pretty good. And from that point on, the next thing I did was I went ahead and sketched out the arms by following the same kind of idea and using 3 circles. So obviously shoulder, elbow, and start of the hands. That's how I did it. And then I kind of went ahead and connected the dots. Now, this is a method that I found has personally worked well for me, and honestly over time and over a lot of practicing, I've kind of come to the point where I can just kind of sketch out bodies without having to draw these circles, and by just being able to visually imagine and kind of gauge where the body would be placed. But again, everyone has different processes and different ways of learning, so if you want to go ahead and draw it differently, then feel comfortable and don't feel stressed about feeling the need to do it this way, because honestly, whatever you do, it'll work out fine. Okay, but I do want to take this chance to mention that I'm still a learner, and honestly, I still kind of think of myself as a beginner when it comes to anatomy, because although I've been able to learn a lot along the way, I'm still not perfect. So obviously, not all my tips here are going to be perfect either, but I just thought I'd share with you guys how I go about doing things, and I hope this might help you out. But again, still learning and still bound to make mistakes here as well. So don't worry, we're all in the same boat. By the way, if you're someone who's trying to draw a dynamic pose of, well, I guess a pose that you've never drawn before, or one that you can't even visualize fully, then make sure to use a reference. Like me, I don't go ahead and draw running poses every day, and that's not something I'm too familiar with because I can't see myself when I'm running. So that's why I used a reference for this drawing, and honestly, using references really does help. So if you are going to try and draw a dynamic pose of a pose that you're not really that familiar with, then definitely I would recommend using a reference. Now the next pose I want to show you guys is kind of like a sitting on a brick wall kind of pose. Again, following the same kind of idea: circle, vertical line, horizontal line, jaw, chin, ears, head. I feel like by the time this video ends, my first 5 steps when it comes to drawing anatomy will probably be embedded in your neurons. But anyways, moving on. Neck, extending the lines outwards, then kind of joining it to create a triangular shape on top. Like I said, same kind of process. Can you see like the repetition here? Then I'm gonna go ahead and draw this box kind of shape. But hold on, I'm not gonna go ahead and draw the hip here. We're actually gonna be doing something just a tad bit different. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw 2 kind of curvy lines coming from the box that represents the chest. And at this point, I realized that I hadn't drawn the line at the bottom to show where she would be sitting, so I went ahead and did that. And now the next thing is to connect the drawing back to the line where the person is going to be sitting, because obviously their body is going to be resting at that place. And now I'm going to go ahead and draw 2 circles. Now these circles are not for the start of the legs, but actually for the knees. And as you can see, the hip would kind of go in this place here, but we're not really going to draw it out because it's kind of implied, because we are seeing this character from a different perspective, which means we can't really see the start of their legs. Now for this character, I want to make it look like their feet are kind of just hanging downwards, so I went ahead and drew another circle to mark the start of the foot. Then I connected that to the bottom, and for the second leg, I just kind of went for it. Then I went ahead and drew the foot here and another foot there. The next step is I went ahead and used my circle method to sketch out where I wanted the shoulders, the elbows, and the hands to be placed. And as you can see here, I'm kind of drawing it so they kind of do bend outwards, and I'm going to have the hands resting on the brick wall, or you know, the surface, whatever. And that's pretty much how I do it. It's kind of I don't know, it's just like something that once you start doing it, it'll just kind of make sense. It's just something you can visualize. Like, visualizing dynamic poses is honestly quite hard, but when it comes to visualizing a sitting pose, it's still hard, but a little bit easier. Anyways, make sure you have the body resting on the line, because obviously you don't want your character to look like they're just floating there, unless, I don't know, they're like Captain Marvel or something. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and draw some clothes on our character and finalize the sketch with the black gel pen. And that is one thing I do want to say. Drawing the area near the knees was really hard for me to kind of show with a pen, because if I was using a pencil or coloring pencils or markers or whatever, I could kind of show the depth, but with the pen it was kind of hard to represent the depth, because obviously the knees do extend back to the body and there is some level of depth in that gap. So I did try shading it with my pen, which turned out looking a bit weird, but it's okay. If you guys do color this drawing in or use a pencil or just like graphite to add some shading, it'll look much better. And always just keep in mind that poses are flexible, and while it is nice to want to follow one set structure and be able to draw every single pose, you do need to be flexible as well when you're drawing poses and be ready to adjust your method and your process. And now the very last thing I want to show you guys in today's video is how I make perspective drawings. Now I don't make perspective drawings that often, but when I do make them, there is something to keep in mind, and it's a very important thing. And I'll tell you guys what that thing is in just a bit, but to start off, let me explain what pose I'm drawing. So the pose I'm trying to draw is kind of just of a girl reaching out with one hand forward towards like the audience and another hand kind of flowing backwards, just like, you know, in a really loose kind of way. So I started off with the same kind of process. Do you guys remember what it is? In case you don't, let me remind you again. Just kind of, you know, make sure it's embedded into your neurons and your long-term memory. Circle, vertical line, horizontal line, jaw, chin, ears, and head. Then the neck. This is just going to help me to see where to draw the rest of the body, because obviously the head is the one thing that is always kind of consistent. Anyways, the reason why I was making my hand do some weird stuff a second ago was because I was kind of trying to demonstrate the pose I was going for with the hands. I kind of want the hands to be open and just kind of coming out and stuff, just in a reaching out kind of way. Honestly, I don't know how to describe it, but you'll see for yourself. And the hands did take me some experimentation. By the way, remember how I said there was this really important thing to keep in mind when you're drawing perspective poses? Well, let me tell you guys exactly what that is. And that is that things will not look good until they do. You just need to trust the process, because when you're starting off the sketching process, it's just gonna look so weird. Like, look at this right now. Like, what is this? Some kind of chicken wing, or what is this? I don't even know. But just trust, because when the entire drawing comes together, when you're done with drawing the pose, it's gonna look so much more better. Just trust. It's so hard to trust, right? I know, I understand. Like, I'm gonna try and draw this backhand and just look at how weird and silly it looks. But by the time I reach the very end of this drawing, it's all just gonna be tied together. And the thing is, once you reach the end of the illustration, your audience will be able to understand the perspective in this. They'll be able to understand how the body is moving. But, you know, while you're still working on the sketch, it is going to look a bit weird. Again, trust the process and trust that it will turn out. Like right now, just look at this arm at the back that I'm drawing right now. It's going to look so weird, but it's okay. It'll turn out in the end. Now, let me tell you guys something that I wish someone told me sooner, but nobody did. But don't worry, I'm here to tell you guys. And that thing is, don't get caught up in copying your reference. Your reference is a reference. It's only meant to guide you. It's not meant to be some kind of rule book as to how your drawing needs to look. Because I used to be the kind of person who used to like look at a reference of myself and try to copy it exactly when it came to poses, but when you translate a photo into a drawing and you kind of try to stylize it, it will turn out looking different. So make sure that you look at the drawing and think about what you can add, subtract, or change to make the drawing look better and to help your audience or even yourself in the future understand what's going on, and just stop getting blinded or just stop blinding yourself by trying to just copy a reference without considering the effect it might have on your drawing, especially when that is a negative effect. Anyways, as you can see now, the hand at the back is kind of making a lot more sense because now this drawing is just coming together much better. And if I colored this in, it would have looked so much better, but we're not doing that today, but maybe another day. Anyways, that's how this turned out. And here's how the drawings look. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. And if you're someone who doesn't like tutorials, but more enjoys draw with me videos or sketchbook sessions or stuff like that, then make sure to stay tuned for next week's video because it's going to be a fun draw with me Spider-Verse edition video. Can't wait to show you guys what I made. Anyways, guys, that is it for today. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fabulous day. Stay awesome as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!